Hello, this is Jay Milligan. I'm the managing partner here at Milligan and Higgins Law Firm, and this is our frequently asked questions series. One of the big questions that I get from families, friends, people at a bar, golf tournament, whatever, is if you're asked to take a breath test, like what's the best decision to do there? So there are a lot of different considerations in that question and what the answer should be, and that limited situation. Obviously, being arrested very stressful. You don't have a huge opportunity to consider it. You don't have the right to a lawyer. So you really need to make a decision in a short time period that has a life impact on you. The first consideration of whether or not to take a breath test is, well, what did you have to drink? Now, if you were arrested and you legitimately had, one, two, or three drinks and they were hours ago, you may want to seriously consider taking the breath test because you may very well blow a reading that's under a 0.08. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to release you if it's under a 0.08. They can still detain you if it's a 0.06, 0.07. However, they're not going to take your license at that juncture. Anything of 0.05 or below, they would need to release you off that charge. So it all starts with, well, what did I have to drink? Was it a reasonable amount of alcohol in a time period that was reasonable as well? And then you might want to say, geez, I think I can pass this and take it. Conversely, if you've had a lot to drink, you may say, geez, I don't know if that's a good idea for me to take that breath test at that particular moment in time. The other consideration is just the obvious. If you take the breath test and fail it, it's a 30-day license suspension, and they will advise you of all these rights and the suspensions and things of that nature, or they're supposed to anyways. But regardless of whether it's a first, second, third, fourth, fifth offense OUI, if you take the breath test and you fail it, it is a 30-day license loss. Now, to refuse a breath test, if it's a first offense, it's 180 days, second offense, 3 years, third offense, 5 years. So those are considerations that you need to take into account because you may need your license for work. You may have young children. You need to get into activities. You may have just different life concerns that require a license. Now, granted, we all need a license, but some people don't need a license for work. They work from home or they don't have kids. And so those are all different considerations. Again, you're trying to make this decision with not a lot of time and under a very stressful situation. So you got to try to unpack all this stuff in a short period of time to make the right decision, not only for your life, but for potentially defending the case. Now, I will say that selfishly speaking, as a trial lawyer, as an OUI lawyer, we want trials. And if you refuse to give a breath test, that helps our endeavor in going to trial for you and getting you not guilty. And obviously, the reason for that is if we don't have to deal with the breath test, it's one less thing we need to deal with at a trial. So it may be that you had a great case, you did well in the field sobriety test, your driving behavior wasn't bad, and it looks like a winner from the outset, but then you go ahead and blow a number like a 0.14 or 0.15 or maybe higher, maybe like, listen, I think your case is great, it looks good, but I don't know what I'm going to do with that breath test. I could convict you alone on that. So these are all the considerations that you need to take into account on whether or not to take a breath test. But generally speaking, life concerns aside, if you want to try to defend your case, if you think you did well in the field sobriety test and you think you got a good case and you had enough alcohol where you're not positive where your number is going to come in at, it's probably best at that point to just refuse to take a breath test.